We are back. It is currently 38 minutes past 2 p.m. And we've just wrapped up on important discussions on mental health. And now we're moving on to some real talk. You know, the kind of conversation where we get into things we talk about, but don't always say out loud, or we think about and don't always say out loud. The experiences that shape us, the lessons we learn along the way, and the realities of navigating faith, culture, and the world around us. And who better to have this conversation with than Dr. Sameera Nanabhay? She is a doctor, a mom, a wife, and someone who has seen and experienced so much of the world. There's something about speaking to people who have been in spaces we haven't, who have witnessed things from a different perspective. It just adds so much depth to the conversation, adds so much excellence to the conversation. And that's exactly what today's segment is about. We're talking about the way we see the world, the expectations we place on ourselves, and the pressures that come with trying to balance it all. And of course, with Ramadan in full swing, we'll touch on the struggles, the reflections, and everything in between. And for me, this one's extra special. Dr. Sameera isn't just a guest, she's someone close to my family. We go way back. Well, okay, maybe not way back, but back enough that I knew she had to be here today. So let's get into it. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sameera.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's so lovely to be on the show with you. Jazakallah so much for having me.
Jazakallah so much for joining me today. I am so excited to have this part of the segment. You know, we just finished off the first part, which was focused on mental health, and I think it was a conversation that needed to happen. And just everything about it made me so happy because it was perfect for the youth, perfect for what people are going through today. And I think with everything that you're going to come with for us today is just going to add to that so much more. So with that being said, I'm going to get into my first question for you, and that is, when you finally experienced something you thought you were missing out on, what made you realize that wasn't all that great after all?
I think usually we have this statement in society today, which is FOMO, fear of missing out. And what we don't realize is that sometimes there's more joy in missing out than fear in missing out. So, as a Muslim, sometimes we feel like Islam might be restricting us in some way, but we need to change our mindset and understand that we're not actually being restricted, we are being protected. So, for example, sometimes we feel like, okay, I'm missing out on fun trips, I'm missing out on traveling. But in reality, Allah Ta'ala is protecting us from the vulnerability that comes with being far away from home. So we are actually experiencing the joy of missing out that vulnerability as ladies. Sometimes we also feel like maybe we are missing out on the type of fashion that other people are able to access because we have our hijab that we are supposed to uphold. But then we realize that there's actually so much of joy in missing out being objectified, and there's so much of joy in missing out on a culture of becoming so materialistic and focused on the outside and not allowing us to focus as much on the inside. Likewise, we might sometimes
100%.
feel like we're missing out on like parties, etc., especially when we keep company with other students who might not be Muslim and we see the lifestyle that they are leading. We feel like we might be missing out on those freedoms. But Allah Ta'ala is actually saving us and we are experiencing the joy of missing out on like losing control of the faculty of your sound mind and intoxicating your heart and soul by resorting to alcohol and music. So we are not missing out on things. We are actually experiencing the joy of experiencing better and missing out on things that would have harmed us anyways.
Well, I think it couldn't have been said any better. You know, you're not missing out. You're just experiencing it in different ways and you're saving yourself from things that could have been worse for you. No, Jazakallah, so much for that explanation. I think seeing it in that light makes it so much better and eases the heart more that it's okay if you don't go through what other people are going through, or you don't do the things that your peers may be doing. My next question is, how can young Muslims create meaningful, exciting experiences while staying true to Islamic values?
I think what the youth can do is to find alternatives that are suitable within the Islamic sphere and not to try to be something that they are not. So, something we see very commonly today is that we take things that we are not allowed to do and we make a Muslim version of it. And there's no need for us to do this because our Islam is already complete, our Islam is already whole, and we don't need to make Muslim versions of other things in order for us to be satisfied, in order for us to live fulfilling and whole lives. So, by taking alcoholic beverages and making non-alcoholic beverages in the same bottles, or by taking music and remixing it as nasheeds and those sort of things, we are showing sort of like an inferiority complex, because we feel like for us to enjoy our life, we have to create Islamic versions of things that are not meant for us anyway. So I think it's a mindset shift. We need to understand that Islam is complete, Islam is whole, and Islam is perfect. And everything that we are allowed to do within the bounds of Sharia is already leading us to a fulfilling life. And there's no need for us to change other things to make halal alternatives in order for us to experience joy and happiness.
100%. Be happy with who you are. You know, you don't have to do the same thing that someone else is doing, which is against the Sharia, is against your values as a Muslim. It's okay for you to be who you are and be happy with that, you know? My next question is, what's one common misconception young people have about activism in the digital age, and how can they approach it more effectively?
I think there's a trend towards people jumping into everything and wanting to give their opinions on everything despite not having enough knowledge. So I think because it's so easy for us to interact globally via the internet and via social media, we feel like we have to respond to everything, or we have to be part of every movement that there is. And we shouldn't. We should first make sure that we have enough knowledge before we speak about anything. And we should also first understand that we have to be respectful, and we have to engage in these fears in a very gentle and a very tactful manner. Because if we are going to go with high emotions and post in such a way that other people feel belittled, or that comes across as very angry, people are going to respond in the same way. And Allah Ta'ala tells us in the Quran that we should not mock at the gods of others, because they will mock at our Allah Ta'ala out of the lack of their knowledge. So with everything, we're not going to go at people in a way that's with high emotions, because that's how they are going to respond to us as well. And we should know that there's a time for us to speak and there's a time for us not to speak. If we know that making our voice heard is going to make a difference, then we should engage. But if it's going to become like a comment section battle or something like that, and we are not going to be able to change the mind of someone, then it's وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. If we are engaging with ignorant people, it's better to wish peace upon them and end the conversation right there.
Hmm. Yes. You know what? I have no even like comments to add on to it, because everything that you're saying is exactly what needs to be heard. I hope that we're all taking into consideration what Dr. Samira is telling us, writing it down and keeping this forever, because sometimes you don't have to be part of everything. Just take a step back and just live your life. You don't have to fight over everything. You don't have to be a part of everything. It's okay to just lay back and watch. You just have to watch sometimes. You don't have to be a part of everything. My next question is, have you ever wanted to call someone out online but held back, and what made you decide whether to engage or let it go?
So usually I don't call people out online at all, because I don't think it's going to make a difference. Like, there's a time and place for us to correct, and the time and place is usually directly to the person and not on a public platform. It's not really necessary for us to criticize people in a public way at all. So sometimes you have to correct people in a public way when they have given misinformation to the public, and the public now need to be educated towards what the right opinion is. But I haven't experienced that for myself yet. For myself, if I see something that I don't think is correct, I feel like going the personal route is a lot better than, taking a public shaming approach to someone's behavior.
Mm. Yes, yes. And I think a lot of the time that's what people fight about. They fight and say, like, you could have just texted me privately. You didn't have to say this in the comment section. But then you also have people who are like, why you texted me privately? Like, you want to fight and things like that. So it's a very hard one. And so I would say just opt out of it, just keep your peace, keep everyone's peace, instead of, going to something that may not end up good in the way that you expected it to. I think, with real talk, there's so many different ways that we can take it. There's so many different approaches that we can, see and, go with. And now looking at, we're talking about social media, things like that. And now we're moving into a very different kind of side of real talk, if you want to call it that. And my question is, what's a cultural tradition you deeply appreciate, and one that you think should evolve or be left behind?
Um, I think the cultural trend of family togetherness and prioritizing a family unit is something that's very important and that Islam also encourages. And I really enjoy that and I hope that it stays forever. And something that I think should really go is placing unfair expectations onto people, especially like children or family members, and having ideas of what success means. And if people don't live up to that, criticizing them for it and always bringing certain things up. Like in the Indian culture, it's very common for people to prioritize certain fields of study. And if their children or other people's children are not in those particular fields of study, they would be looked down on. So that's something I think that really needs to go. And also pressurizing people all the time. When are you getting married? When are you having children? When are you having the next child? I think, being in people's personal spaces needs to stop definitely, and it's something that's very prevalent in my culture at least.
Mm, I think it's one of those things that a lot of people go through it because your cousin's a doctor, you have to be a doctor too. You got to be an engineer, you have to be everything that people see to be success. When, taking back to week one, we spoke about barzakh, we spoke about death, and how that's the ultimate success. We can do all of these great things, and it helps us in this world, alhamdulillah. But let's also remember that the greatest success is when we're in the grave. The greatest success is whether we're going to be in Jannah or Jahannam. So let's focus on that more. Let's focus on, taking the fact that we're in Ramadan now and we're in these last 10 days. Use these last 10 days to be, the most powerful time of your life, and do everything in your power to keep that Islamic ethos in your house, in your family, and just focus on that so that we know that we success in this life, and more importantly we succeed in the next life, inshallah. um my next question is, have you ever had a funny or surprising moment where your cultural background and Islamic values clashed?
I haven't actually had that experience before. Alhamdulillah, I was really blessed and grateful to be able to grow up in a very Islamic environment, and things were usually prioritized Islam over cultural practice. So I'm really grateful. Although I don't have a funny story to share, but I'm really grateful that I haven't witnessed a clash in my life as yet.
I think that's actually the best answer that we could get, because can become really really hard when you start to to choose between the two, and having to choose which one you're going to prioritize more. So alhamdulillah for that. And back to my point of real talk taking so many different directions. My next question is, knowing that you are a doctor, you're a mom, you hold so many great titles during Ramadan, how do you spend your day? Give us a rundown of what your day looks like.
So Alhamdulillah, this Ramadan has been so much more, like I've had a lot more free time compared to previous Ramadans because I don't work every day anymore. So 2 days a week I work as a doctor, and then the rest of the days, Alhamdulillah, I'm at home. So I get to spend time with my baby who's now almost 1.5 years old. And then
Aww.
during the afternoon, Alhamdulillah, and then during the afternoon, he actually goes with my mom-in-law to madrasa because he loves the madrasa environment where she teaches. And that's when I'm able
Mhm.
to plan my tour for Taraweeh. And then we all have iftar together as a family, and then it's Taraweeh. Sometimes I'm able to go to masajid that have ladies sections in order to experience the Qiyam al-Layl, but that's not every day, it just depends. So Alhamdulillah, I've had a much more calm Ramadan this time. I've had less work commitments, and I'm able to, I think, balance things a lot better than I used to, when I had more on my plate.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, at least you have that time. And I'm loving that your baby gets to go to madrasa too. He's going to be our next big Malana, inshallah. I think also for so many people, they struggle. They struggle with time management. They're studying, they're working, and Ramadan can become like any other day. And, with that being said, we need to prioritize, and sometimes, it can be very hard to prioritize, but having that small window to just reflect, to just ponder, to make ibadah can be one of the most rewarding things for you, because Allah sees that you're taking that small amount of time out of your day from your busy schedule to remember Him. So even with our busy schedules, with everything that we have going on, always try your best to remember Allah and to take out time for Him, because without that, you're nothing. Basically, you need Allah to succeed. You need Allah with everything else that you're doing in your life. You need Him. So let's remember to take our time for Him. Let's remember to remember Him, especially during Ramadan, even out of Ramadan, but especially now, again, with it being the last 10 days, make the most of it. It's this last stretch, and it's what we need to change the qadr, Laylatul Qadr, change the qadr for the next year. Do everything that you can to just push, inshallah. um my next question is, what's the most unconventional or last minute suhoor meal you've had to have while you were studying because of not having enough time to prepare something properly?
Can I just quickly go back to the previous point? As you're mentioning, like such
Yes.
amazing, beautiful points, I just want to mention that there's so many people who don't have the privilege and luxury and blessing that I do of having people who help me to look after my baby as well. And I know that there's a lot of moms, when they become moms, their ibadah is not the same as it used to be in the previous Ramadans when they were not moms yet. And sometimes you can feel so disappointed that I used to do so much and I was able to do like this amount of um, tilawa, and I was able to do so much more in terms of my tarawih. And now that I have a baby, like it seems like my ibadah is gone left. But in reality, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to reward every single mother for all the sacrifice that they put into their child. And it's a different form of
Mhm.
ibadah. So it's not actually losing out on ibadah. It's just moving it into a different form of ibadah. And even the patience of not being able to do what you used to do before is something that Allah Ta'ala appreciates from us as mothers. And Allah is a shakur. He appreciates every single effort and every single thing that we wished we could do. Allah knows we wish we could do that, and He will definitely reward us for that.
Ameen,
Um,
ameen.
Coming on to your question, I'm actually a very boring suhoor person, so I just have cereal and like a banana and tea. So it really doesn't take any preparation, anyways. So that's what I do usually have.
You know what? Sometimes the simpler the better, Instead of having to cook up a storm for suhoor, just having your cereal is what you need, And that too is, it goes with setting unrealistic expectations, because a lot of the time, considering seeing online and everything, you see people having huge spreads and everything, and sometimes you don't need all of that. In your house, you know what works for you, what works for your family. And if it means just having your cereal, or if it means making a three-course meal for suhoor, you do what's best for you, and don't allow social media, don't let the influence of other people dictate what's going to be best for you, because maybe for you that's all you need. If you have a lot, you're going to get sick. If you have too little, you're going to get sick. So just do what's good for you and take it one step at a time. I know that we're so deep into Ramadan, usually in the beginning of Ramadan, people talk about, prioritizing yourself and making sure that you do everything that's good for you. But we start to lack on that towards the end of Ramadan. And then we get lethargic, we get tired, and we're not able to um focus on our ibadah and everything because we're not well. So take your time on doing what's good for you, for your body, so that, and I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm talking with the doctor, so I hope what I'm saying is right. But make sure that what you're doing is good for you, especially in these last days where we need to be the best version of ourselves.
We definitely are.
My Yes, yeah. My next question is, if you could pause your work responsibilities during one part of Ramadan to focus on something else, what would it be?
I wish I could pause time during Taraweeh and then have like that time twice every day so that I could read on my own and I can also attend Taraweeh in the masjid. So I think I would definitely pause that portion of time and duplicate it and do two things every day because I really enjoy listening and I also really want to perform it on my own. So I think that's the part of the day that I would maybe put on pause and duplicate.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've asked this question to other people, and the responses are always so different, because other people were like, I think I would, someone said I would duplicate iftar so I could eat two times. And, like, you get so many different kind of responses. So, no, I really, really appreciate the response that you gave me. We are coming towards the end of this segment. And my closing question for you is, for all of our listeners and our viewers that are on right now, what is one thing you would tell them for this last stretch of Ramadan, just to kind of get them through it?
I think Let's just realize the importance of every minute of these last 10 days. Let's make the most of it. Let's minimize all our distractions. And as long as we're doing our best, that's what Allah wants from us. We don't have to compare ourselves to anybody else. We don't have to, we don't have to be what everybody else is. As long as we are doing our best for Allah Ta'ala, our form of worship might not be the same thing as somebody else's. We might be good at one element and not another. We might be doing our ibadah as mothers compared to people reading a lot, and that's okay as long as we are making the most of our time, and as long as we are doing our best for Allah Ta'ala. That's exactly what we need to be doing, and we need to not lose any precious moments because soon it will be over, as time always flies during Ramadan.
Definitely. Time is, so precious during Ramadan. So let's all take in the advice that Dr. Sameera has given us. And let's remember to just, take it one day at a time and make the most while you're doing that. Jazakallah so much, Dr. Sameera, for joining me today. I truly appreciate it. I truly appreciate the insights that you've given us and the look from someone else's perspective, really, that you've given on these questions, because I feel if I had to ask this to someone else, I would get completely different answers. But getting it from you is just, I really, really appreciate it. Jazakallah so much for joining me.
I mean, it's only a pleasure, and Alhamdulillah, variety is the spice of life. It's always lovely to hear everybody's opinions and learn something from everyone. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, that is now us coming to the end of Real Talk, which is part of the segment Unspoken Truths. I really, really appreciated my guests and my listeners, and enjoyed having this conversation today. You know, I think, like I said when I was talking to Mahdia, that this is something that's so special to me, and having to be able to have these conversations with other people, seeing how other people live, and just having these deep conversations is sometimes what we need. We've just been playing around on here the past 2 weeks, so having this time to just come down to earth, have deep conversations, and just talk has been truly exceptional. When we come back from our break, we will have trending now, where we start to make noise again. So I'll see you after the break.